All right, it's the end of the year here, week 17. Well, a whole bunch of shit going down. Let's start off with Christian Hackenberg is finally taking first-team reps in practice for the New York Jets and could make his NFL debut in a relief role Sunday against New England.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I guess the Bryce Petty experiment's over. I know they wanted him to play, and I guess I don't like what they see. We'll see what happens, but this is a time to do it. The Jets, really haven't done much over the past couple of years. For a while, they haven't been relevant since they go to two AFC championships in 2009, 2010 with Rex Ryan in the defense and on a running game. Since then, they've had a couple general managers, head coaches. The owners don't know what they're doing. One of them's not even in the United States. The other one doesn't really care anymore. So it's all about nothing. I think they're going to make a big play to go get a quarterback, whether that's Eli Manning next year or Kirk Cousins or somebody out there that is better than what they have, or try to assess it through the draft, which they've been unsuccessful since 97, 98 when Parcells drafted, who's that quarterback that was decent for them?
Cliff Pennington. Or Chad Pennington.
Chad Pennington. Yeah. So I think the Jets are going to get blasted by the Pats this week. So that's all I have to say about that.
Speaking about blasted, the police probe crash of Deshaun Jackson-owned truck. A vehicle registered to Buccaneers wide receiver Deshaun Jackson was found to have marijuana and hollow point bullets inside after police investigated the vehicle following a single truck accident. And if you're Hank Hill, you would pronounce it vehicle.
Deshaun Jackson, boatload of talent, unbelievable speed down the field receiver. I know we've talked about Mike Adams this year and what a disappointment Tampa has been as a whole. Deshaun Jackson, signed with them after spending some time with Washington, and they thought Tampa was going to have the best receiving core in the league, and what has happened is they've had a really terrible year. Deshaun Jackson really has been a non-event this entire year. It's a guy that, has always been in trouble since he was back at Cal. Then he was with Philly. He's never welcome no matter where he goes, and I don't know much about the details, but where there's smoke, there's fire. It's not like this guy's a choir boy. But the weed is one thing, but the hollow point bullets, that's not good. So
isn't that one of the reasons? I think I remember a couple years back, EDP was talking about this, and it was all over that. It might have been Chip Kelly, where the organization thought he was bad news. There was gang signs everywhere.
Oh, he has gang sign tattoos.
That's what I think. So that's why they shipped him off.
Yeah, well, I remember when he was in Cal, I was still involved in the draft process there, and this is a kid. He's a lot like Marshawn Lynch, two kids from Cal that just are bad. Not just bad people, but just this thugs. He's a thug. There's no room for thugs, but if you can, run a 4.3 or 4.34, 40 and get down the field and change games, you're always going to play. With that being said, as long as he can play and he's not, suspended or in jail, he'll have a job. But this is not it's not good news for Deshaun Jackson. Knowing him, I don't think he's too worried about it.
All right, Broncos' Demaryius Thomas clings to chance to reach a milestone. I don't know how, considering the quarterback play of the Broncos this year. But Demaryius Thomas needs 108 receiving yards this Sunday to become the second Broncos receiver in history to record 6 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons.
Who's the first?
I didn't say. I can check. What do you guess? Who do you guess would be the first?
What's that guy's name that was there forever?
McCaffrey?
No. Could be McCaffrey.
It's not. I know who it is.
What's his initials?
RS.
Smith?
Yeah.
Rod Smith?
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, Denver, they've had a really tough, bad year. There's no confidence in the head coach. His first year, Elway, has that competitive mode that, if you don't win, then there's a lot of problems. There are a lot of problems, but it all starts with him as the GM, president, whatever, former, great or current great, former Hall of Famer, current Hall, whatever you want to call it. I think Demaryius Thomas has got a boatload of talent. When he was getting the ball, he was a top 5 receiver in the league. But this year with the quarterback carousel from Simeon to
Lynch to
Osweiler, and then run again as we go.
Lynch is starting Sunday, by the way.
So, that's good to know. With all that being said, if he does do it, it's definitely a milestone, and I'm sure he, I don't know what his contract looks like, but I'm sure he's itching to get out of Denver and get with a quarterback that can consistently make his talent worthwhile and get W's at the end of the day.
So Gurley and Aaron Donald won't play in the finale for the Rams. There's no reason to. Matthew Stafford appreciates everything Jim Caldwell has done. Matthew Stafford says Jim Caldwell is a good leader who worked well within the locker room, but the quarterback says the Lions didn't win like he'd hoped.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with Matt Stafford. I think I've been saying this since week 6, week 7, week 8 that Detroit is just not a good football team. They have a lot of talent. Matt Stafford is a top 4, top 3, maybe even top 2 quarterback paid in the league, and he's not deserving of it. He's just at a point in his career when his contract came up and the market that preceded him gave him that money. With that being said, Caldwell, he's really been. He's a guy that's like he's a coach that's just in neutral. He's had opportunities, with that team to
Marvin Lewis.
Marvin Lewis, yeah, but Marvin Lewis is, Marvin Lewis at least won divisions, regardless, in the playoffs, he didn't win anything, but Caldwell, yeah, the whole thing was a year ago, 2 years ago, but Detroit. They're just Detroit, and they've had a couple chances these last couple of years. They've been right on the cusp, and with Green Bay being down, especially this year, and I think Minnesota, last year too, this really stepped it up, and they stepped it up this year. Now Minnesota's a good team, a very good team. They're not world beaters, and I think when Rodgers went out, it was week 6, so it wasn't like it was Minnesota's division right then. I mean, Detroit's had some games that they should have won. And they just haven't, played a 4-quarter game, and I don't think Stafford's the guy, and he's going to be there forever. And I don't really think you can really blame this on the defense like you have in the past. But I think Caldwell, I don't think they should fire him just because he has had some progress there. He has had some success. So. We'll see what happens. That Black Monday, will really determine what happens to a lot of these coaches. But I'd be surprised if Jim Caldwell's out of a job.
Patriots James Harrison reportedly expects to play Sunday against the Jets. He told the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette that according to the Patriots, he will see action in this Sunday's game.
Well, they need him. I mean, this is when I read about this pickup, I was excited just because it really truly shows that a lifelong Pittsburgh Steelers player has, what they say, you can't beat him, then join him.
Yeah.
And he realizes that he's risked all of his friends and all the they said that they're not going to put him in the Ring of Honor anymore because he signed with the Patriots. And James Harrison, when he was in the prime of his career, was all pro every single year. Top-notch talent. I think he's only going to add good things to New England's defense. And right now they could use a guy like him not only for his leadership, but a guy that is a 13, 14-year vet maybe. But a guy that knows how to win, and he knows what he needs to do, and he joined New England knowing that they needed some defensive help, and he knows that they have Tom Brady, and that his best shot at winning the Super Bowl is with New England and not Pittsburgh. And I think that says a lot about him joining the New England Patriots. Now, with that being said, I just hope this doesn't turn out to be the Pittsburgh Steelers now just play out of their minds if in fact they do meet New England in the AFC Championship. I hope it doesn't backfire, but I still think all that stuff is over by the first or the second quarter, and then it's a football game. So I think it's going to be a great addition. I'm glad they did it. I like when New England picks up these guys that have had Pro Bowl, All-Pro careers, and then are at the end of their career, and then decide to sign on with New England because they want one last shot at a Super Bowl. But we'll see what he's got left in the tank. He can't hurt. I mean, right now the defense for New England is hurting. They've been hurting all year. So even the name alone, having him out there, maybe will make the players play a little bit better.
Jack Del Rio says Todd Downing is, quote, super bright and will be a, quote, real good coach. Coach Jack Del Rio had praise for Todd Downing despite having seen the Raiders' production slip in Downing's first season as offensive coordinator.
I don't really know much about this guy. I think the offense really never got off to a solid start. Amari Cooper was dropping everything in sight when they started off. The first 4, 5, 6 games, they started off bad. Carr broke his back. He's clearly not the same quarterback that he was, all of last year. And through training camp, Crabtree has had a good year, better than good year. But he's still, he got suspended for getting into fights and stuff. I still think that Oakland Raiders team is still very raw. I still don't think that they, that they have. Jack Del Rio is a good football coach. He's a very good football coach. I just don't know how much he can, reel those guys in. It's just almost like the Raiders. They just do whatever they want, and if they win, great. If not, then they're the Raiders. As far as the offensive coordinator goes, I don't think it's all been his fault, with injuries and, your quarterback breaking his back. Just the fact that he's still playing right now is a magic in itself. So we'll see what happens. I don't think Oakland should get rid of, Del Rio. I think they should allow him to stay at least one more year because, I think he's shown that he could have success. They did win the division last year, even though they didn't have Carr in the playoffs. So I don't know much about this offensive coordinator, but, in his first year, I think you'd give him a C or C-.
Scott, if you're a fan of the Worcester Warriors, okay?
What are they?
They're a rugby team.
Okay.
The position, I guess, is named lock, the position. But the guy's name is Christian Scotland Williamson, and Christian Scotland Williamson will be leaving rugby to pursue a career in American football in the U.S., the club has confirmed. So good for you. Jets' Kelvin Beachum defends ex-teammate James Harrison. Former Steeler Kelvin Beachum said he doesn't agree with how Pittsburgh players have been critical of James Harrison's decision to join the Patriots.
Well, they're jealous. I think that, it's just one of those things, like even in our company, if someone leaves to go to a competitor, the first thing we're not going to wish him luck. We're going to say, what are you doing? But,
sure.
With all that being said, look, it's his decision. He's a grown man. He's been in the NFL forever. He knows, what he needs to do in order to be on a team that knows how to win and will win. And right now, I think it says a lot when he chooses New England, regardless of what the past history has been between both teams. But I think a lot of it has to do. I think a lot of the fans, have put more. Granted, the Steelers and the Pats are rivals, and no one's going to doubt that. I think it's more of a rivalry if you were to, rank it between the players on the field versus the fans. I mean, it's more of a rivalry with the fans. But with that being said, Pittsburgh has, been New England's, one last hump that they've gotten over pretty much every time they've needed to. And, Harrison has chose to be on a better football team.
So Dolphins' Adam Gase says he let down owner Stephen Ross. The Dolphins head coach offered no excuses for falling short of expectations and missing the playoffs, saying his team let opportunities slip away.
Well, last year he was a rookie head coach, and he took them to the playoffs. I don't think anyone expected him to do that. They obviously, after making the playoffs, you're always expected to have a better year or have the same year as you did the prior year. And, a lot of things happened, down in Miami at the beginning of the year, starting with the offensive line coach, with his shenanigans. And, they trade their lead back, even though the backup there is pretty good darn running back. He really ripped up New England. With that being said, I think that Gase is going to be there for a little while. I don't think he's in trouble with his job. I still think that they may do with what they had, and I think they dug themselves too big of a hole in order to come out of it. But that was a big win on Monday night against New England, and I still think that showed the organization that they do have good talent, and when they decide who they want their quarterback to be, I think that's really what it's going to come down to. But as far as Miami, Buffalo, New York Jets, as long as Tom Brady's in that division, they're not going to win. And I think you can say that after 15 division wins, 15 division titles in 16 years or something like that.
The one year they did was when Brady got injured and they tied for first.
They went 11-5.
Yeah, and they tied for first.
Correct. So I like Gase. He's a friend of mine. I worked with him, as we all know, and I think you'll see them rebound. He's a competitor. He's not going to let this year, as far as he's concerned, they'll play one more game and then it's on to 2018.
So Patrick Mahomes is second to starting for the Chiefs this week, obviously with Kansas City locked into the 4 seed. Jaguars' Doug Marrone has a compelling case for NFL's Coach of the Year. Doug Marrone has taken what had been a woeful team led by a turnover-prone quarterback and turned it into a division winner for the first time since 1999.
Yeah, he's done a hell of a lot. I think McVay, what he's done out in the NFC West there and in the NFC, winning that division title, coming out of nowhere. I think, what were they, 4-12 last year, and to win that division, and they had a tough battle against the Titans on Sunday. But really, that's a good football team, a very good football team, and I think McVay is going to win it. But Marrone's right there as the number 2 guy for sure. Jacksonville is like no longer Jacksonville. They're a good team. They have a good defense. They got lit up by Jimmy G last week, 44 points.
Unbelievable.
But with that being said, they're going to be an opponent, in the AFC, which is a down AFC this year, and they'll probably walk out with a 3 seed, and from there, they're probably going to have to go through Pittsburgh in order to get to New England. But they will play. They will have to win 3 games in a row to get to the Super Bowl. And we'll see how that can they can hold up. It is still a young team. They haven't been in the playoffs, so it could be a whole different atmosphere for them. But with that defense, I think that they can at least win their first playoff game.
This is big news for us as Pats fans. Malcolm Mitchell's back at practice.
Okay, well, look, anyone that's back at practice, whether he plays this week or not, and he's available for the playoffs. Obviously, win or lose against the Jets, they have a playoff, they have a bye, but you need to win that game to secure number 1, and then have 2 weeks off, and especially with the way the Patriots' injuries have been, that would be huge, and I'd be absolutely shocked if they were to lose to the Jets.
Steve Young says the Chargers are the most dangerous because of the defense and Phillip Rivers.
Well, look, the Chargers are sitting there at 8-7. Okay, they're not in the playoffs. I don't know what they need to do. Obviously, they have to win their game, and something else has to happen. I think the Chargers, they got them, where they start 0-4. Another, guy that's going to receive some votes for Coach of the Year is Anthony Lynn. That defense, has really, really stepped up this year, and I think Rivers, for what it's worth, has had a good year. They have a great running back in Melvin Gordon. Keenan Allen has stayed healthy the whole year, and with that defense, they've kept them in a lot of games and won them a lot of games. So whether or not they make the playoffs or not, I still think they have a lot to build off of. But I don't know what Steve Young's really talking about. I guess you can make that statement if they get in as a 6th seed in the playoffs. But right now, Steve Young makes a lot of comments. He, off the cuff. I'm not a big Steve Young fan. I never have been. I think he says a lot of things just to say them, and I don't know. I don't think he's as knowledgeable as a lot of other quarterbacks that do commentary. But Steve Young is Steve Young.
He also thinks that the Saints are the team to beat in the NFC, and he concedes that the AFC is New England versus everybody. He doesn't see anybody beating them. Rob Gronkowski misses practice with illness as Tom Brady returns, but defensive tackle Alan Branch and running backs Mike Gillislee and Rex Burkhead are not on the practice field. Let's see here. Broncos' work on first down has dragged down the offense. A league-worst average of 4.23 yards per play on first down is among the issues the Denver offense must tackle in the offseason. Brady shows no sign of slowing at age 40. Bruce Arians could become Cardinals' all-time winningest coach in finale.
Really?
Bruce Arians can break the tie with Ken Whisenhunt.
Really?
And become the Cardinals' all-time winningest coach if he can get one at Seattle in the finale. Talk about an upset.
Yeah, that's not happening.
49.
I was going to say, it can't be that much.
So, let's go back to where I was here. But, a lot of shenanigans going on this week with people resting, people this, people that.
Yeah, week 17 usually does that, depending on, I don't know how many games there that mean something. Tennessee's playing for something. I think, obviously the Chargers are playing for something. Buffalo's playing for something.
Baltimore's playing for something. They win their in.
They win their in. There you go. So Baltimore. As far as the NFC goes, I think it's pretty much. I think Seattle can get in if I think Atlanta loses. No, I don't know. I don't know. I haven't seen any of that stuff. I don't know what's in front of me, but. In Week 17, you're just hoping for some competitive games. Obviously, 75% of the games mean nothing, but there are some games that, really are it's like a first weekend of playoffs getting, before the wild card playoffs start.
Jeez, when you age, you age. Poor Teddy Bruschi. I'm looking at a picture of him right now. The wrinkles and everything, it's like just yesterday he was playing. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It means we're old.
Yeah, Teddy Bruschi, one of my favorite Pats of all time.
Yeah.
I was at that game when, they played against Miami and he intercepted the ball and ran it in for a touchdown, and everyone started throwing snow in the air. It was a pretty good. I actually have one of those pictures, autographed pictures that I got from my parents, several years ago. But it's I love Teddy Bruschi.
So Dave Gettleman was hired by the Giants. To be the ex-Carolina executive.
Yep.
He's now the GM of the Giants.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Eagles' Carson Wentz is a case for league MVP.
No, I don't think so.
The Saints, let's see. Whatever happened to Michael Floyd? Did he sign with somebody else?
Yeah, he didn't sign with New England. He signed somewhere else. I don't know. I haven't heard his name.
Yeah, I haven't heard names either.
All year. I don't know what his deal is.
I completely forgot about him.
Yeah.
But he had a huge block against the Dolphins last year in the regular season game
Sure.
to spring a touchdown. I think it was Blunt. I forget who it was for. Maybe it was Gronkowski. I forget who it was for. Schefter on upcoming NFL offseason is going to be volatile, or whatever. Adam Schefter says that this year's coaching carousel will be an overdrive. Time for Cowboys to cut Dez. Now, Dez Bryant says that he is not going to take a pay cut to stay.
Yeah, well, he's going to get paid no matter. I mean, that's another guy I'd like to see New England go after.
Oh my God, if they got him, forget it.
Well, Dez Bryant's a shell of himself. I think, you can never have too many good wide receivers on your team. The only reason that it wouldn't work, he'd have to take a pay cut to sign with New England because New England's not going to value him at what he thinks he's valued at.
So listen to this. Jameis Winston gave all the members of the Bucs offensive line portable grills for Christmas. Ryan Fitzpatrick decided to give them custom coolers with his face on them. That's pretty funny.
Fitzpatrick, he's a you got to give him credit. The guy's, 36, 37?
He's up there,
yeah. Yeah, he's pretty old. But with that being said, I think it was more of a joke than anything else. Did you see Winston last week?
No.
He ran over, I think it was one of their player development guys who was in a suit. They bumped chest. He was going after somebody. I think, Winston, I just don't like him. I said this, for the last couple of years. He's not a leader. I think he's a fake. He's a phony. This is a guy that's been...
You're a big phony!
He should have been arrested, numerous times, but has gotten off just because of who he is.
Well, let's talk about getting off. And yes to anything that is cool, awesome has to be getting off. Because he and C.B. Gunn were tied for first last week, going into this week.
Yeah.
And C.B. Gunn, who I know is going to PAX in beginning of January, had I not been going to Missouri for that
PAX?
dinner. It's San Antonio. It's a video game convention.
You were going to go to San Antonio?
If I didn't have this thing coming up, I would have flown
right.
down there. I've never been. I probably would have met up with him. Yeah, well, I know. I've been to San Antonio many times. I've never been to PAX.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I love it. If I had to move somewhere in Texas, it'd be San Antonio.
Or Austin.
Yeah, I love, sure. So the deal is, yes to anything that is cool. Well, before we go into that, let's go into us. I want to make a correction. Last week I said me and you against the spread had 3 ties. It's incorrect. We now, after I went 7-8-1 against the spread, you went 5-10-1. I am now 1/3.
What was the correction?
The ties. I had 3 ties first, 3 pushes.
What were the games?
No. 3 overall pushes. Okay. When I read out the standings last week, I said we had 2 pushes or 3 pushes, 3 ties. When it was
you
even.
Said you went 7, 8.
Last week I went 7-1. Last week when we did the show, the previous week, when I read out the final standings, I have it written down here.
All right.
My point is the ties were incorrect. We had more ties than I said we did overall. So I went 7-8-1 this week.
Yeah.
Okay, you went 5-10-1. I am now 113, 117, and 10 instead of 3. You are now 109, 121, and 10. Because here, the previous week, I said we were 106. I said I was 106, 109, and 2, which is not fucking accurate considering the previous week before that I had 7 ties for us. So anyway, the deal is I gained 2 games on you there, so I'm up by 4 going into the final week. It'd be amazing if I could beat in the spread. Yeah. Not that our numbers are anything to write home about. However, they're better than Adam Shines.
I'm going to go against every single, whatever you pick, I'm
going against to try to win. Yeah, you have to. Oh. All right, now against the standings, regular standings, I went 11-5 last week. You went 14-2. So you are now 158-84, and I am now 148-92. I'm 8 games behind you, so that's over. Congratulations, you beat me there. But what is not over is the overall. So here's the drill. In the first division, yes to anything that is cool, awesome, went 12-4. He is now 160-80 in first place. In second place, we have Dan McLean, who went 13-3. He is now 154-86. He's 6 games out. Third place, we have Lev Maker, who went 10-6 last week. He is 149-91. He is 11 games out. Fourth place, we have Cali Guy, who went 9-7. Fourth place, we have CV Gunn, who went 0-16. He's now 148-92. He is now 12 games out. Fifth place, Cali Guy, who went 9-7. He is 135-105. He's 15 games out. Sixth place, we have Vadix, who went 11-5. He's 140-100. He's 20 games out. And then last place, Steve Goldman, who went 0-16 again. He is now 83-157. He is 77 games behind. Okay? Now, in the Peon division, we had Blake Rios and Dennis Ramirez both going 12-4. Blake Rios is 104-75. Dennis Ramirez is 103-76. And Jennifer Lynn, who went to the Chargers game last week, is 11-5. She is now still in first, 112-67. It looks like she's going to win that little division there. She is 8 games ahead of Blake Rios and 9 games ahead of Dennis Ramirez. So all the games as normal every year on week 17 are on Sunday.
Yep.
And let's go right into them. Green Bay, 7-8, 3-4 on the road with Brett Hundley. Or Nick Hundley, whatever the fuck his name is. Brett Hundley. I keep me mixing up with the baseball player. Going into Detroit to face the 8-7 Lions, who are 3-4 at home. Detroit's favored by 6.5.
Who are you taking?
Oh, you want me to do it first? Okay.
Yeah, because I'm taking...
I'm taking Detroit minus 6.5.
Okay, I'll take the Packers plus 6.5.
Green Bay. All right. Then we have Houston, 4-11, 1-6 on the road, going into Indianapolis, 3-12, 2-5 at home. Indy's favored by 5. I'm going to take Indy minus 5.
I'll take the Texans. Plus 5.
Yep. Chicago, 5-10, 2-5 on the road, going into Minnesota, 12-3, 6-1 at home. Minnesota favored by 11.5. I'm going to take Chicago plus 11.5.
So I'll take Minnesota minus 11.5.
Yeah. New York Jets, 5-10, 1-6 on the road, going into New England to face the Patriots, who are 12-3, 5-2 at home. Patriots are favored by 15. Taking the Jets plus 15.
I was going to take the Pats minus 15 anyway, so that matches up.
Okay. Washington 7-8, 2-5 on the road, going into the Giants to face the Giants. Going into New York to face the Giants, 2-13, 1-6 at home. Washington favored by 3. I'm taking Washington minus 3.
So I'll take the Giants plus 3.
Correct. Next up, we have Dallas 8-7, 5-2 on the road, going into Philly to face the Eagles 13-2, 7-0 at home with really nothing to play for. Dallas is favored by 3. I don't know how, unless they know something that we don't know. Unless the Eagles are resting everybody.
They're not gonna.
So I'm gonna take Philly minus 3. Or Philly plus 3, excuse me.
Okay, so I'll take Dallas minus 3.
Yeah. All right, now, Cleveland 0-15, 0-7 on the road, going into Pittsburgh to face the 12-3 Steelers, 5-2 at home. Pittsburgh favored by 10.5. I'm going to take, watch, I'm going to take Pittsburgh minus 10.5, and all of a sudden Cleveland will cover.
So I'll take
Cleveland, right?
Yeah, Cleveland plus 10.5.
Yep. Carolina, 4:25 game. Carolina 11-4, 5-2 on the road, going into face Atlanta 9-6, 4-3 at home. Atlanta wins. I think they're in. If they don't, they're fucked. Atlanta at home is favored by 3.5. I'm going to take Carolina plus 3.5.
So I'll take the Falcons minus 3.5.
Yep. Next up, Kansas City 9-6, 3-4 on the road, going into face Denver 5-10, 4-3 at home. Oof. Kansas City with nothing to play for, and Patrick Mahomes is second. Starting Denver is favored by 3.5. This is a tough one because we don't know what Mahomes can do or can't do. I think Lynch is starting for the Broncos. You know, Demaryius Thomas needs 108 yards to reach 1,000. Oh boy, I'm gonna with Denver's defense and Von Miller, I'm still gonna take Denver minus 3.5.
Okay, I'll take the Chiefs plus 3.5.
All right, Jacksonville 10-5, 4-3 on the road, going in to face Tennessee. They need a win. Tennessee 8-7, 5-2 at home. Jacksonville really with nothing to play for, although Doug Marrone has been quoted as saying we're going to do everything in our power to beat them. Tennessee favored by 3. I'm taking Jacksonville plus 3.
Okay, I'll take Tennessee minus 3.
All right, then we got San Francisco 5-10, 2-5 on the road, going in to face the Rams 11-4, 4-3 at home. Rams are resting pretty much everyone. I'm taking San Francisco. San Francisco's favored by 3.5. I will take them minus 3.5.
Okay, I'll take the Rams plus 3.5.
Okay. Bills 8-7, 2-5 on the road, going in to face Miami 6-9, 4-3 at home. Buffalo favored by 2.5. I'm going to take Buffalo minus 2.5.
Okay, I'll take Miami
plus 2.5.
All
right, Oakland 6-9, 2-5 on the road, going in to face Los Angeles to face the Chargers 8-7, 4-3 at home. Chargers need to win this. Chargers are favored by 8. I'm going to take Oakland plus 8.
Okay, I'll take the Chargers minus 8.
All right. Then we got Arizona, 7-8, 2-5 on the road, going in to face Seattle, 9-6, 4-3 at home. Seattle favored by 9.5. I'm going to take Arizona plus 9.5.
Okay. Seattle minus 9.5.
All right. Then we have Saints, 11-4, 4-3 on the road, going in to face Tampa, 4-11, 3-4 at home. New Orleans favored by 6.5. I'm taking New Orleans minus 6.5.
I'll take the Bucks plus 6.5.
And then the last game, Cincinnati, 6-9, 2-5 on the road, going in to face the Baltimore to face the Ravens, 9-6, 5-2 at home. Baltimore favored by 9.5. I'm going to take Cincy. Cincy can't fucking score. No, yes they can. What's the team that fucked me a couple weeks ago? They just couldn't score any fucking points. Was it Cincinnati? No, it was Cleveland. Yeah, but it was another team before Cleveland. Cincinnati couldn't score, I thought. Yeah, didn't they get shut out, or the Bears raped them? I know the Bears raped Cleveland, but it was a couple weeks ago. I had a teaser, and I couldn't believe Cincinnati. They were losing 27-0 at one point. I'm taking, but Baltimore, but
Baltimore, the Bengals against the Vikings.
Yeah. Well, that's
34-7.
Baltimore, nothing to play. You know what? I'm going to take Baltimore minus 9.5.
Okay. I was going to take Cincy plus the points anyway. So.
All right. Well, there you go. So now let's go right into our picks for the last week here.
Okay.
All right. Let's go up. I'll have you start it off. Packers, Lions.
Packers, Lions. Detroit.
Yep, same here. Texans, Colts.
Colts are terrible. Texans are terrible. I'm going to take Houston.
Okay, I'm taking Indy.
Okay.
Bears, Vikings.
Vikings.
Okay, I agree. Jets, Patriots.
Pats.
I agree. Redskins, Giants.
Redskins.
I agree. Cowboys, Eagles.
Eagles.
I agree. Browns, Steelers.
Steelers.
Wouldn't it be funny as hell if Cleveland beat
Pittsburgh? Oh, that'd be awesome.
Carolina, Atlanta.
Atlanta.
Taking Carolina. Kansas City, Denver.
Kansas City.
I agree. Jacksonville, Tennessee.
Tennessee.
I'm taking Jacksonville. San Francisco, Los Angeles.
San Francisco.
I agree. Buffalo, Miami.
Buffalo.
I agree. Oakland, Los Angeles Chargers.
Chargers.
I agree. Arizona, Seattle.
Seattle.
I agree. New Orleans, Tampa.
New Orleans.
I agree. And Cincinnati, Baltimore.
Baltimore.
Yeah. All right, guys. Hey, fun season. Get ready for the playoffs. Now, here's how it's going to work.
How many games am I out with?
You're 2 games behind. Yes to anything that is cool, awesome. So this is for all the marbles as far as that goes.
Okay.
And technically, Dan McLean's still in it. He's 6 games out. Technically, Lev Maker's in it, kind of. I mean, he's 11 out. But the bottom line is, yes, he had a great season, 160 and 80. I don't know what the hell happened to CD Gunn. He just blew it. Unless they said, fuck it, I'll split the prizes like you would on an online poker at a chop down at a poker tournament at the final table. But, so, we'll see what happens with that. Now, when the playoffs still go, so yes, we'll be facing off against you and me in the playoffs. We'll still add to the wins.
Sure.
For the overall, because the overall went to the final week of the season, I think, last year for the Super Bowl.
Final game.
Final game. It was you and Thomas and Patrick Brady Jr.
It came down to the score.
And
he beat me, right?
And he beat you.
Yeah.
So that'll happen. And Jennifer Lynn, congratulations. You probably have won your division.
Yeah, she unbelievable. What was her?
112 and 67. That's not bad. That's pretty
I'll
good
tell you
for
what. There's a lot of females out there that I know. I mean, she knows what she's doing. I mean, it's not easy. For a lot of, it seems easy, but, what did I go 2 weeks ago? I went, 4 and 12 or 5 and 11 on picks, so it's not always a guarantee. So good job for her, and, we'll see what happens going forward.
All right, guys, thanks for watching.
All right, see ya.